Hey everybody, welcome back. Where have you been? Haven't seen you in a long time. Today we're going to talk about my red Jaboticaba. About a year ago I did a video on this same tree and it was in a 15-gallon container. And guess what? It's still in a 15-gallon container. But we're going to move it today to a 25-gallon. I'm going to share a couple of tips on the soil amendments that I use, and then we're going to step this thing up to 25. We're going to do it together, so don't go away. Alright, so this is a 25-gallon pot. This is a 15-gallon pot. I'm going to move this out of the way for a minute, and then I'm going to show you what we do to get them out of the pot. One of the easiest ways to do this is to lay it down and push down like this, and then roll it around a little bit, back and forth. Try not to break any of the branches. And you can see how it's already coming loose, and then I can pull it right out. Pull the pot out. That's how I take them out. Very rarely do you have a problem. The root ball is nice and tight. You can see it's holding firmly. It has a lot of nice root growth, and it's going to go right into the 25. And we'll talk about the amendments that we're going to use now. All right, so now you can see the root ball a little bit better. It's holding together nicely. It's not falling apart. And the tree went into that pot on September. I believe it was September 20, let me double check it, because I usually write these things down. The date, I have the date on here. September 5th, 2021, it went in here. And I had put mycorrhizal fungi, I had used azomite, and I used biochar. Now I don't have any azomite, and I don't have any mycorrhiza today with me, but I do have the biochar, so I'll show you the biochar, and I'll explain later what the mycorrhizal is and what the azomite is. Alright, so I just wanted you to see what the root ball looks like. And now I'm going to show you the inside of the 25-gallon container so I can explain the amendments that are going in there and the type of soil that I'm going to use. Alright, here's your 25-gallon container. This is your biochar, and this is the mix that I use. This you can pick up for about $9 a bag. These used to be $6.75 about 3 years ago, maybe $7.50, $6.75, $7.50. This is a very good mix. Biochar, this is an extra bag. I don't remember how much this sells for right now. I know it's not that cheap either. It's kind of expensive. Biochar is basically looks like just ground up charcoal, okay, black, and it'll stain your hands just a little bit. You can see it's a charcoal, okay. Now the reason we use this biochar, or I use it, and a lot of people use it, is because this is actually good to help colonize all kinds of good beneficial fungi that you will add to your soil. In most cases you will add something like a mycorrhizal fungi. That's a fungi that actually has a symbiotic relationship with all the other organisms and the roots of the tree. So what the tree does is it provides the fungi with sugars, carbohydrates, and that's food. So they love that, and then they in turn take nutrients out of the soil and they move it up, spread it out to the whole tree. In here, this is peat. This is 100% peat moss. Okay, so you can get a bag of peat moss for about 20 bucks. Used to be like $12 about 3 years ago. Now it's 20 bucks. So you get your peat, and I usually put in about a good 2 inches on the bottom, because I'm going to place the tree in here and I want to put in about 2 inches on the bottom. So we're going to make sure that the tree is at the adequate depth. So the depth, usually these things have markers here. There's usually a ring right around here which leaves you about a good 4-inch up here. So some people go all the way up to the top. I like to go right to that edge of that rim and leave myself about a good 4 inches on the top. It kind of helps then to put the mulch there, makes it nice and thick, and it kind of helps to keep the tree well hydrated during times when maybe there's not a lot of rain. I have to use city water here, and my city water is on a filter. Now, I just did that about 6-7 months ago, and since I started using the filter on my city water, knocks out the chlorine, my jabos are beautiful, much better. They don't have as much problems with the tips burning. If you look at these are really old leaves, you can still see tip burn, but you don't see that on the new growth. So what I'll do is I'll put that in there, and I'll add a couple of handfuls of this first at the bottom, and then when I place the tree in, the hole, which we're gonna do next, I'll show you what else I do. Okay, so my tree is in there, and I only placed it in there so I could get a better measurement of the height from the bottom of the pot. So it's still way too low. So now what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna take it back out, I'm gonna add some of that jungle grow, and then I'm gonna mix it together with the peat, all right? And then after that's done, I'm gonna add about, like I said, about 2 inches now to bring it back up, because I got about 2-4 inches roughly. So let me start with about a 2-3 inch layer, and I'll mix it all together with the peat and the biochar that's in there. And then what I'll do is we'll place the tree to see more or less where it is. All right, so behind me is the 25-gallon container with the tree in. I set it up right in the center, and I have it just about where I want it, which is right where that line is that I showed you. So I'm just about 4 inches from the top, and I have it centered. The bottom of the soil now is all mixed with peat and the jungle grow. It's all mixed together, all right? Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna backfill, and we're gonna use the jungle grow with the peat. There's more peat in here, and there's jungle grow in the 15-gallon. What I'm gonna do is, since this is a 25-gallon container, we've already taken up about 15 gallons of the 25 with just the root ball that went in there. So we need about another 10 gallons or so. And since this is a 15-gallon, we're gonna have some extra. So we're gonna mix some peat with this, mix it all together, and then that's what's gonna go in the hole. And we'll put a little mycorrhizal normally around the roots, some azomite, and since I do have the biochar, we'll use some biochar. That's what we're gonna do now. All right, so now we have our 15-gallon container that we've used to mix the peat moss with the potting soil. The mix is about 40% peat to potting soil. That's what I like to use. If you don't give your tree, your jaboticaba tree, the conditions that it needs, the right low pH of the soil, you're gonna have trouble with the tree. It's gonna not grow as nicely. It's not gonna be as productive. Once it starts fruiting, it's just gonna be chlorotic, where it has trouble picking up minerals, especially iron. So you really wanna make sure you're using a good acidic amendment, and the best one you could use is peat. Now, some people will add some sulfur, and I've used sulfur in trees that are in the ground already, that maybe someone at their home planted a jaboticaba, a red or another variety that's really important to have good acidity, and adding some sulfur and mulching often helps, but it's always a challenge. So if you're growing the reds, it's best to grow them in containers, or know that your soil is very acidic so that it'll be happy. Now, the other important thing is you want to make sure they get plenty of water. A drip system would be ideal. I don't have a drip system, so I water mine literally every day or every other day, depending on the weather conditions. And then what I've done is I started filling this up. I'll put a little bit more in there to show you. I just go around like this. Try not to hit the tree. You don't want to hit the tree, or you don't damage the tree, but you go ahead and you put this in here like this. You just put your soil in. This tree here, now we're going to do is we're just going to go in with our hands. We're going to push down a little bit, kind of make sure that it's got plenty of soil all around the roots. Then I'll add a little bit more of the biochar, and I would normally, if I had it, I would add some azomite. Now, what's azomite? Azomite are minerals. They're trace minerals that are very important, that should be in the soil, and they really benefit the tree. So azomite, check it out. The other thing I talked about earlier was the mycorrhizal, and the mycorrhizal is beneficial fungi, and I think I already explained that. But if you don't know anything about it and you want to know more about it, you can go into my website, peppysplants.com, go to the search, type in mycorrhizal, and my page will come up and tell you everything about mycorrhizal fungi. All right, so here we are. We're just going to go around the tree like this, pushing down. All right, so now as I went around the tree, I looked at the level to make sure that my soil level is not covering the trunk. I don't want to be above the trunk. So I've gone around with my hand. I've gently pushed in with my fingers like this, all like, you know, karate chop like this, just go down all around it. like this, spread it around. And I've already added a little bit more of this. What I did is I took some, and as I went around, I spread it around there like this. You could do a little bit more on this side. Spread it around a little bit like this. Then I'll turn the tree. Come over to this side. I'll do that. Same thing over here. Got a branch in my face. And then that will help to colonize the root system with the mycorrhizal fungi. Now, you may be asking, okay, what about fertilizer? Well, yeah, I use fertilizer. On these trees, I want them to grow fast when they're young. So when they're really small, I like to use a time-release fertilizer. The one that I like to use is an 1868. 1868, 18 being the nitrogen is really high. Believe it or not, I still use 1868. On these large trees, giving them the 1868, a lot of people say, oh, you're crazy, you're giving them so much nitrogen that they're not going to fruit. Well, I don't think that's true, because I give it 1868 for the last 4 years. The trees grow fast, they still fruit. Now, maybe, I'll grant you, maybe they'll fruit more if I didn't give them such a high nitrogen content. But I'm going for growth right now, and I can always ease up on the nitrogen to see if it increases the amount of fruit. And that may happen, that may actually be significant, but no harm in giving them 1868 in the first couple of years of their life, because in my opinion, I want as much wood on the tree as possible, because where does the fruit grow on these trees? Right here, right on the wood. So we're pretty much done here. I'm just gonna water it in, and then I don't have any mulch right now, but normally what I'll do is I'll take mulch and I'll put mulch all around it. So one other quick point, when I took the tree and I lifted it up and I placed it in the center, I didn't disturb the root system at all. Okay, I looked at it briefly, I looked at the bottom, there was no damage to taproot. The taproot was there, but it wasn't bent, it was just there. It was kind of like growing fine, so I didn't touch it, I didn't mess with it. No cutting of the roots, no doing anything. Just simply put the tree in there, leave it alone. I've done this now on multiple occasions. The trees, they do fabulous. I have these trees also on an elevated surface, right? So I have a heavy duty plastic pallet. Now this pallet keeps it off the ground. That, to me, I think is really important, because what's happening is we're keeping the roots from growing into the ground eventually, and we're also helping it to get better aeration, okay, to the root system, because it's not stagnant, it's not sitting there. And the other thing is we're keeping creepy crawlers, right? We're keeping grubs and we're keeping other potential insects that live in the soil from getting in and maybe damaging our roots, eating our roots. So by keeping them elevated, I think that your plants will do much better. They'll be happier and healthier. Water. These trees love a lot of water. So oftentimes people will put them on a drip system, and they really benefit from the drip system. Already touched on the fertilizer. Basically, you can grow organic if you want. You could use regular organic fertilizer. There's blueberry type fertilizers. There's hollytone fertilizer. There's all kinds of fertilizers you could use, 100% organic. You'll be doing that on a regular basis. I want to be able to not have to worry too much about the fertilizer, and I also don't want to burn my leaves, right? So I use the time release, I already mentioned it, 1868 fertilizer. There's a couple of brands out there, but just make sure it's time release. A good quality one is Florican, Florikan. Florican is an excellent fertilizer in my opinion. I'm not saying that you should go out and buy it. I'm just saying it's a good product and I like it. So there you go. That's basically what you're going to do, is you're going to put it into the pot the way I described it. You're going to make sure you water it. You're going to make sure your pH is kept low by using the peat moss at the ratio about 30 to 40%. And one other thing I said earlier was my leaves were not burnt up, my tips. Well, actually they are. They had not been doing this for a while because I had replaced the house filter. I used a chlorine filter, but it looks like it's been about 6 months and it's starting to get messed up again. So it's time for me to change that chlorine filter. The chlorine in the water can really cause your leaves to burn at the tips, but fertilizer can do that too. I don't believe that this is fertilizer. I'm pretty sure this is chlorine because I've been using the same fertilizer for years and was having the same problem with the chlorine. When I stopped using the chlorine by putting it on the filter, the tree got so much better. But like I said, it's been about 6 months, and maybe it's time to change that filter. All right, everybody, listen, I hope you liked the video. I hope you learned something. Check us out here at the channel. Subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and come back and see us again. Take care.